Good morning, everybody. So today I thought, well, last week was a little bit harder as I got some feedback from people. And so this week I thought we kind of take a little step back and we do a little bit more work on balance. Balance is something that everybody needs to challenge themselves to get better in. And if you're one of those people who always says, my balance is horrible and I can't balance and I've got horrible balance, that is something that can be changed. The only people who don't know how to improve their balance are people who are just trying the same thing over and over again. We have to actually change something in order to make the balance better. So today, if you are a regular, then definitely you can use little bits to increase your difficulty if you'd like, but just kind of take it as a good 30-minute balance routine that you can kind of safely go through and just challenge to not fall into your cheats, but to really work on what we want to feel in balance today. So we're going to start with a little marching with our arm action. No weights to start. So let's go ahead and just march your feet. I want you driving energy down through the floor with each step, imagining that you're trying to put a footprint into the floor every time you put your leg into the ground. And now let's go ahead and move those arms forward, side, and up. And as we're bringing that leg up, we're not trying to bring it up so high that we get into any pelvic shifting. We really just want to float that toe up in front of us and make sure that we're not getting into a slide the foot up or a butt kicker routine. We really want to bring those feet up in front to get those abs engaged and working. Let's go for about 10 more seconds. Pushing through the floor with each step, really trying to activate that balance and activate your core and posture. And relax. So what we would like to do now is grab a band. And you don't want it to be your heaviest band, but it doesn't have to be your lightest either. Find something in the middle. And so what I'd like is when you're doing your squats this time, we're going to start out the action by having our hands reach out as our hips reach back. And then we're going to come up. As you're going out, I want your arms to be angling down towards where the floor and the wall meet rather than straight ahead, so that we can really keep our abs engaged and make sure that we're not popping our ribs when we go down. We're really keeping those ribs pulling away from the band as you stretch those elbows all the way out long. Let's give me 2 more. Feeling your arches lift off the ground as you go down, but feeling the entire part of your foot stay anchored to the floor. We don't want to lift off any toes or heels. And then let's go ahead and rest. And so take your hand out of the band, but keep it. Shake them out. Grab a little water if you need it. Let your heart rate come down. And for our next one, we're going to do opposite. So that one, we had our arms doing something different from our hips. This time, we're going to let our elbows follow the hips, and then we'll extend at the top. So let's put that band back on your arms. And be careful that when you put the band here, you're not having it on your hands or right on your wrist, because that will hold tension in it usually. Just keep in mind, we want it there. And every time you're lengthening out your arms, we want to make sure that you're unleashing all of the tension out of this like a spider web. And you want that spider web tension just to flow right out of your body through each fingertip. All right, so let's go for our second half. And so with this one, start tall with your arms out in front of you. This is where we're going to come back to each time. And so elbows go back as your hips go back. And then hips tall, arms long. Drive it, find arms long, find those elbows straight, feel the shoulders anchored back and down. And let's go 5 more. These don't have to be fast. I want you to be feeling through that your abs and your cores are anchoring in. And you're starting to activate those muscles that take a lot of work to activate because they're not the things we use typically in our day. Good. So go ahead and rest. Let's drop our bands. And we're going to grab some kettlebells for our next set of marching. And with the kettlebells, I want you to choose things that are the hardest thing that you do well, meaning challenge yourself to some heavier bells. We're going to hold them in this position this time, so they don't need to be up here. So whatever the heaviest thing that you can comfortably hold in both hands, I'd like you to grab those. And so what we're going to work on this marching set is we're going to start real slow. I want you to lift one foot, but then tap that toe on a really thin sheet of ice right beside your other foot. And then switch. We're going to hold each one for about 5 seconds. Make sure you're really squeezing those bells and driving them to the ground. Keep your ribs anchored to the floor. Make sure that you're trying to get your shoulders, your ribs, your hips slightly in front of your hip bone so that you're not backing your heels or causing any pinch or shift. We're trying to make a small little triangle sliver between our legs without letting the other one touch the standing leg. We're trying to minimize the shift from side to side, but know that a little bit happens. Focus on not letting that touching toe break through any ice. Let's go 2 more. And then we're going to go ahead and speed it up again. So I want you to go back into your march, pulling those toes up in front of you, driving that length down into it. Now that we've just woken it up in the balance, make sure that you're feeling that every time in your balance. Your hips and shoulders and abs are together. They're slightly in front of the ankles. We're never back here. We're driving our foot through the floor and pulling the toe up in front of us, but not too high. Whatever your body can control your pelvis through. 3, 2, and let's go ahead and set your bells down. Move your hands around. Grab a little drink of water and walk away from your bells. It's always nice to kind of move around, make sure we let those muscles recover in between our sets. So our next one, we're going to do let's do the one where what we're going to do is we're going to pull a bell up and we're going to hold it right in front of our chin. But when we're holding it here, guys, I want to make sure you're not holding it with your biceps and your elbows and your shoulders. I want you to imagine that the arms are kind of driving out towards the floor and the wall so that you feel your abs and your lats holding the weight and you're not feeling like you're holding everything with your arms, okay? So let's go ahead and we're going to grab a bell. If you know how to shoot it up, let's shoot it up there so we don't worry about pulling it up in a weird position. And so now we're going to march in place. Good. And as you're marching in place, same thing as we've been doing the whole time, I want you to go driving length through the floor, trying to plant your foot into the floor. Keep your arch nice and lifted as your foot pushes through the floor. Drive your hips, abs, and head slightly forward so that you're not leaning back against the weight. Feel your ribs anchoring, your lats anchoring, and your elbows driving outward so that you're not holding it too much with your arms. 5, 4, 3, 2, set the weight down, walk away for a second, shake things out. We're going to come back to that exact same weight if it felt good. If you need to adjust here, either going up or down, feel free to. And the next one we're going to do is where we're going to go slow, doing our ice taps, trying to feel out the balance of that march and lightly touching the foot on the ice. But if you'd like a little extra challenge this time, you can lift your foot off about the height of a phone. And you want to be careful. You don't want to step and break your phone. So remember that we want to have an intention to stay low to the ground, but not to challenge ourselves too high, okay? So let's go ahead and shoot up your weight, bring it up high. And now let's go ahead and I want our slow motion balance, holding it for about 5 seconds each leg, finding that little triangle, that little hover over your phone, and make sure you don't squish the face of your phone. We want to stay long, pushing through that long leg on the ground, pushing energy from your groin down through the ground, keeping the weight in your abs and your lats and trying not to squeeze too much tension into your shoulders. Good. Give me about 2 more each leg. Finding that balance, finding that space between your groin, finding that length down into the floor. Last one. And let's set your weight down off to the side. So for our next one, our next balance, we're going to do a bird dog on the floor, because activating your abs is key to being able to do something better. And sometimes, yes, I'll give you bells and that's activating your abs, but nothing like some good bird dogs and beasts to really activate what we want to feel. And so we're just going to do the bird dog today, because I think that's a little bit more geared towards your balance than the beast. But when you're doing the bird dog, it's really important, guys, that when you get into position on your knees, that you don't shift over to one knee when you lengthen the other one back. We have to stay centered as we lengthen that leg back, okay? So let's go ahead and get down onto your hands and knees. If you have a yoga block to use as a little bit of a qualifier, you can put that on your back. Help yourself. Make sure that you feel where that block is before you start. Make sure that it's not already starting flat on your back. You want to have a little curve under that block. We want to feel that our knees are directly under our hips, our arms are directly under our shoulders, but we're also not feeling crammed. If your arms are too close, your back will feel like it doesn't have enough room. So make sure that when you place your hands, you can kind of relax and move your spine a little bit, and it's not already feeling a little packed and compressed. And so let's go ahead, and we're going to first start by pushing your chin, your open chest, everything away from the floor by pushing your hands into the floor. And now I want you to lengthen one arm and one leg, nice and long and low. It doesn't need to go high. And make sure you did not shift over towards that bent knee. We should have a line right underneath our belly button and our pubic bone and chin, and we should not deviate off that line. Keep reaching through your heel like you want to put a nail through the wall behind you. Keep pulling your right shoulder or your shoulder of the lifted arm back away from the hand. Keep reaching that elbow straighter. And then place everything down nice and wide. Feel for a smooth transition here so you don't lose your block. And then really take a look, find that line, and make sure you don't deviate off the line as you lengthen that other arm and leg. And as you lengthen that arm and leg, make sure that you drive the energy through the other heel. Make a fist with that lifted arm and reach that elbow long while your shoulder pulls away. Make sure you're reaching through your heel as you're pushing your chin, chest, boobs, and open chest away from the floor. Make sure you're not rounding your back. You're pushing both shoulder blades away from the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, and let's bring everything down. Grab your block off. Slowly come back and sit. If this isn't comfortable, you can go to a shin box, or you can actually come back up to your feet. We're going to do something else different onto your feet on the next one. But I wanted you to feel how the bird dog is instrumental at feeling how to keep the energy driving through the down leg so that you don't let things shift over and drop off the side. So that's why I do the bird dog in the balance, because even when we're standing long in our tall in our feet, we still want to maintain a little bit of an A-frame. We don't want to pinch anything in here, okay? So that's the killer of all balance, is the pinch. So let's go ahead, and for our next one, we're going to do a bird dog standing. And so for the bird dog standing, we're going to need 2 weights or 1 weight, whichever ones you have. But for the weights, I want you to have 1 heavier weight, and then you can have 1 lighter weight. And the lighter weight needs to be something that you can straighten your elbow and pull your shoulder down from. If you cannot maintain that position of keeping the elbow straight, then your job is going to drop down and stay in a balanced bird dog here instead of a straight arm. Because if your elbow can straighten and your shoulder can't stay down, then this is not going to be a position that's good for your neck and your shoulder. So therefore your balance isn't going to improve, and you're not going to do anything positive for yourself. So let's make sure that when you're picking your weight and your position of that top arm, you're really listening and feeling to your body, okay? So what we're going to do on these, I'm going to take my watch off real quick. If you have a watch or you have bracelets on and you have kettlebells that you're using, you may want to take them off now. And so for the standing bird dog, we want 1 weight in our 1 arm holding the heavy weight, and we want the other arm in a position where we keep a nice straight wrist, no buckled wrists, no rounded wrists, really just straight right there, reaching the knuckle up towards the ceiling. And so this is the tricky part, guys. Which foot do I lift? It's always going to be the heavy leg, arm. That's the leg that lifts. And I want you feeling that shoulder pulling down away from that straightening elbow, those ribs anchoring down, the length pushing down into the floor, keeping that bell right by your side, but driving it towards the floor, squeezing the bells for 9, 8. Keep those ribs anchored, keep the elbow reaching, keep the leg pushing length into it. 3, 2, and then bring that weight back down. Squat them nice to the floor with good form. Take a little break, shake your arms. And then we're going to switch and we'll do the other side. So let's go ahead and grab your weights. Feel what you're doing. Bring your weight up. Find that nice strong wrist. And then we're going to bend and lift the heavy leg or the heavy arm leg. And now reach that elbow straight. Keep that wrist neutral. Keep the ribs anchored. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Don't worry about how high you lift this foot. Just work on the length coming out of your groin and that width to make sure that you're not tipping your pelvis to get the width, but you're just opening up the front of your pelvis to feel that lack of pinch. 3, 2, and let's bring that weight down safely and let's set them to the floor. So we're going to go back into our marches. And this time we're going slow and then quick and then slow again. So these are going to kind of be a combination marching set. You're going to use 2 weights. You can use the same weights that you started earlier in class with. You can adjust if you feel like you need to. But let's go ahead and let's grab whatever weights we want. Widen up those hips to get them. Push away from the ground to lift them. And now let's work on balance marches where you're holding your balance for about 5 to 10 seconds, depending on your challenge, depending on your abilities. Make sure those ribs are anchoring down, the shoulders are anchoring down, you're long in the arms, you're squeezing the bells, and the back of the neck is lengthening so that you're activating your whole body posture. You're not just thinking about holding the bells up and standing on one leg. You're trying to drive that energy down into the floor. Keep the arms long. Keep the ribs anchored in the back of the neck long. Keep switching. We've got a couple more each leg. Keep squeezing the bell. And now let's go a little quicker. We're going to speed it up. Keep feeling that length down into the ground. Keep feeling that toe pulling up. Squeeze those bells. If they get too heavy, set them down and keep going on. 5, 4, now we're going slow again. 2, and slow push. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2. Switch one last time. 5, 4, 3, 2, and set the weights down. Rest your hands, wiggle your fingers. It's act like you have water on your hands. You're trying to shake the water, shake the tension out of your arms. Grab a little drink of water if you need it. Good. And so for our next one, we're going to do the same march, but we're going to hold the bell up here. So you can use one of the bells that you just held down low, or you could readjust and find a different weight that you think helps you activate your abs but doesn't wear you into your shoulders and neck. And so let's go ahead. Let's bring the weight up with a shoot through so it's safe. And now let's work on that slow balance, holding it for about 5 seconds. Keeping the weight up by your chin, but elbows driving low towards the floor and the wall. Keep finding that space between your pelvis and the front and the ribs anchoring down into those hip bones. Feel the hips trying to push your body forward slightly and not resonate in our heels. Keep pushing through the floor with your leg, guys. Don't think too much. Use the floor, use the ceiling, use the walls as your educators, and make sure you're not just trying to list through things. You're trying to feel through things. And now let's speed it up. Push to the ground. Float that foot up in front of you. Keep the toe up. 5, 4, 3, and now one more hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, switch. 5, 4, 3, 2, and let's bring the weight down. Nice and easy, and relax. Shake your hands out. Get any water off. Good. And our next one is going to use a lighter weight here. So I don't want you to use what we just had. We're going to use something a little lighter for your balance. And so go ahead and pick something in the 5 to 10 pound range. 5 to 15 if you feel that you can do this one well. But what I'll say, if the weight is too heavy, I'll give a quick demo. If the weight is too heavy, then I'm going to feel the body's tendency to grip into pinchers and to do things that might not help me feel what I want. So we can always work up to heavier if you get as you earn it. But what I want this to feel like is your posture is remaining, your balance is remaining the same as it has through every other balance march that we've done today. But the bell moves freely around you. And if the bell's too heavy, you'll feel yourself reacting with a lot of hip movement or arm movement. So let's pick your weight, and we're going to start on, maybe if you did a little bit on that one with me, then start on the other foot. But let's go ahead and we're going to balance for about 30 seconds each leg. If you need to tap your other foot down, that's fine. Just make sure it's close to the other foot and it's on a very thin sheet of ice, so that way you're not losing your energy and to get it back. So as we balance, focus on that looseness through the arm and the lifted leg, so you can really drive all that energy down through the floor, like you want to push your foot into the basement. And any little tap of the other foot is okay as long as it's a light tap on the ice. Now let's reverse your circle. Keep feeling that space between the groin and the pubic bone, because that's where balance is. If you pinch that in, your balance is going to start buckling. So you're trying to strengthen your ability to lengthen those hips from the floor without losing that length. And let's go ahead and rest. Shake out that hip. And now let's go to the other side. Same thing. Doesn't really matter which way we start our circle. We're going to do both directions. Keep working on spreading this area between the pubic bone, but also maintaining your ribs down, shoulders down, and the back of the neck nice and long. Let the arms be soft as they're moving the bell around the body. Keep pushing energy through the groin all the way through the floor, like you want to push your foot into the basement. Good. Feel how all that energy goes into your core, goes into your posture to hold you stronger. Good. Let's reverse our direction. Keep pushing into the floor. Keep engaging those ribs and shoulders down towards the floor while anchoring those, or trying to float those ears up towards the ceiling. Always trying to find the separation between your ears and your shoulders. And let's go ahead and relax. Good. Shake out your legs. Good. Let any tension let go. And so for this next one, it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's also a great balance exercise. So I like it for two reasons. So that's why we're going to do it. I'm going to turn this just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of that. I have a bench. I have a table, something here at about my hip height. So I'd like you to have something that you can like grab onto. Sometimes just putting your hands on it, they might slip off, or you might not have the right tension. I find it's a little easier to have a lip to kind of just use as a little bit of a balance. But you don't want to be holding on to your balance. This is just for like a little steady, little teeny light grip. You don't want to be death gripping this. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to show you from this angle first, and then I'll show you from the angle where you're going to be using the table. So if the table are right in front of me, what I want to do is reach my lifting heel long, and it's like I'm trying to drive or draw a line up the wall, but I've got to start drawing my line through the floor before I go up the wall with my heel reach. So now if you see it from the side, I want you to stand nice and close to whatever you're using, because this is only going to make it hard and you won't be able to stand up nice and tall with good form. So start nice and close. Feel your right foot on the ground balancing. And now with your left heel, reach towards the floor to straighten that knee. Reach towards the wall and the floor junction to find a little tip through the butt bone. And now push out of the ground with that foot and stand up tall. So as we're going, we want to be careful that our pelvis doesn't shift and twist and that we don't buckle and break over the counter. So let's go ahead and use that again. So we're reaching through the heel to drive the energy, square through our hips. Reach the back of your neck towards the wall in front of you so you can keep your shoulders away from your ears. And feel that stretch in the back of your thigh. And then push from the ground with that leg. Good. Let's do 2 more on this side. So you're pushing your foot through the floor of the standing leg. You're reaching the heel through the wall. You're keeping the shoulders away from the ears, the ribs away from the table. And then push out of your groin, push from the foot on the ground to come up. We've got 1 more on that side. Pushing energy through the standing leg, pushing the heel long, feeling the hips square to the floor, reaching the shoulders away from the ears, and then push into the ground to come up. All right, so we're going to switch to the other side now. So same thing, guys. Make sure as you're going that you're not feeling that you want that reach of the other leg to keep us square. Okay, so make sure you're not pinching that leg across when we're doing this other side. All right, so let's go ahead and stand on the other leg nice and close. And now push through the ground with the standing leg. Reach through the heel as the toe pulls up towards your face. Tip from the butt bone and focus on square hips and square body. Shoulders reaching away from the ears. And then push into the ground to come up. And let's do it again. Push through the floor to reach through the heel. Keep everything square. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Keep reaching the neck towards the ceiling above you. And then push to come up. And when I say push the neck, it means this part of your neck wants to go up towards the ceiling in the end part. So let's go ahead and try it again. Push through the floor. Push through the heel. Use a light touch to help your balance and try and push the back of your neck up towards the ceiling to find that nice neutral neck as opposed to it being up here. And then push away from the floor. Let's give me 1 more. Feel the length in the back of the knee. Make sure that standing knee does not bend as you push length through the standing leg. Now push length through the reaching leg, through the heel. Feel the shoulders reaching away from the ears, the back of the neck reaching towards the ceiling, and then push through your leg to come up. Beautiful. So hopefully you're feeling a little bit more balanced. You're feeling that you did get a little bit of blood pumping. You're warmed up a little bit. So what I'd like to do now is just do normal balance. Let's see if you feel a little bit more balanced through all that stuff that we did. Did that activate all the right stuff so that your balance feels better than it typically would if you just hopped over here like you did in the beginning of class? So let's go ahead, and I want you just to stand on one leg. As you stand on that leg, just feel the posture, feel the length, feel everything that we've been working today. And then I want you just to do some light little clocking, but make sure that foot doesn't touch down a lot. The other thing is to make sure your kneecap always faces forward. We don't want the kneecap to turn out because you see how that's going to turn my pelvis out. So make sure as you're coming around in those outer portions that your kneecap still stays forward and you're not rotating your pelvis and creating more difficulty than you want. And let's go ahead and switch to the other side. Hopefully that's feeling better than where we started today. Same thing. We're not trying to reach too far. We're just saying, where does that leg keep the knee facing forward, going through those little ice taps. And if you're ever feeling, if you want to challenge and just do the phone hovers and not really touch the ground, as long as you don't buckle here and fall apart, add challenge. Hardest thing you do well, everybody, right? So thanks for joining in today. I hope you had a good balanced workout, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.